Hey guys, welcome back to World of Warships. Today we're going to ramble a little bit about the economy in World of Warships, specifically around the cost of premium ships and the new content coming into the game. Monmouth and Gonzaga, they've been released and they're very expensive, let's be honest. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below surrounding the current cost of playing this game, the current ships that are coming into the game as well. Because I do not have all the answers, but I would like to talk a little bit through my thoughts on these two ships in particular and why maybe these two feel a little bit worse than other tier 10 and tier 9 premiums have in the past, because these are not the first tier 9 or 10 ships that we've had for sale. We've had plenty of tier 9 premiums, even tier 10 premiums, quite a few of those as of late, but it feels more expensive this time around, doesn't it? I wonder if that has to do with the current offering of content in the game that we've had recently. A lot of it has been very difficult to afford or to get into thanks to events like Wishing Wharf, right? We had Inshin, which was, if you got unlucky, over $500 US to actually get that ship. So I'm very glad Wargaming has at least given Monmouth a normal price tag. It has a normal price of $184 Canadian, which is not cheap at all. That is really expensive. But that's been a pretty typical cost, I think, for a tier 10 premium. I think where it gets a little confusing, though, is with Gonzaga being only available in an Admiral pack, which means it's the same price. And that feels a little bit odd, doesn't it? You'd really think a lower tier ship should be cheaper than a higher tier ship to buy outright, but that is not the case right now thanks to these Admiral packs. And, you know, Wargaming's also advertising it like it's a 20% discount right now for Gonzaga, even though this is the initial price. I'm not sure how that all works out, but that seems a little sus to me, honestly. But I really like these two ships. I didn't find them that brokenly overpowered. I think they're reasonably well balanced, but with cool, interesting gimmicks that aren't game breaking. They're fun surface ships that are strong in specific ways and have clear weaknesses that need to be mitigated throughout a battle. And I really like that design. And maybe that's another reason it feels so bad right now with these two ships being so expensive, is a lot of the content we've been getting recently has had some very, very powerful gimmicks, perhaps even too powerful, maybe a little overpowered. And some of that content has also been locked behind gambling events, or they're an event like experimental ships where you got to spend either a lot of doubloons up front to even get them, or over 40 million credits and grind for a month to get them just for those ships to be removed. I've seen a lot of comments, or some comments, about people not being interested in grinding for those experimental ships purely because, well, they'll be removed from their account within a couple months anyway, so what's the point? And I can understand that perspective. Maybe comment down below as well if you're feeling that way over these experimental ships. And then they're in your ranked games and in your random battle games, and you got to deal with them. Speaking of new content in this game, and that's an Utrecht that is bombing us right now. That's the most recent line that we've had, and I wonder if that approach to new lines in this game is also feeding into some of the frustration and less excitement around new content. And I think that being early access. They've done early access for a very long time now. I think it was 2017 with the French battleships that they started that. It's been in the game a long time, and I can't help but feel some of the excitement that the general community has had over new tech tree lines coming to the game is lost when it's available in early access for a pretty heavy cost for 2 months, and then after that everyone else gets access. It maybe drags out the hype cycle a little bit, but I think the peak of excitement is quite a bit lower, in fact, and maybe when a lot of the other events and content surrounding the game are also incredibly heavily monetized. The last few months have especially been poor for that with the Wishing Wharf events, and maybe for newer players or people who don't have enough steel or research points, some of these ships that come into the game, like the steel event over Christmas for Shinano, Archerfish, PVO, Hoffman as well. right? Some of these events feel out of reach. And so as a closer to free-to-play or a free-to-play player, what do you do? What do you get excited about? And I think that could be an issue as well. Perhaps this is more feedback for Wargaming, especially if you're feeling like the same or you're agreeing with a lot of the points I'm bringing up here. Maybe this is something Wargaming needs to hear. But I don't want to just defend the big company, right? But I think the Monmouth and the Gonzaga might just be poor timing. And Wargaming actually listened to us in regards to a Wishing Wharf event here. I want to show you a quick little excerpt from the dev blog for 14.2. This released quite a while ago at this point, but you had a Wishing Wharf for this patch. They had one planned, another one right after Inchin. Perhaps they got the message. We had enough pitchforks out for them to actually listen to us. But Monmouth and Valparaiso, probably not pronouncing that correctly, were both supposed to be in another Wishing Wharf this update. And if you don't know those events, they are very, very heavily monetized gambling events. No mention as to if they would have been available outside of that Wishing Wharf event. Perhaps they would have been, but let's pretend that they wouldn't have, like Inchin. And then I think it makes a little bit more sense as to why Gonzaga is so expensive. It would have been the ship available for direct purchase, and Monmouth and Valparaiso would have been the gambled ships for this update. I think that's maybe what happened. Fortunately, Wargaming did listen to the community, and Monmouth is available for direct purchase. I'm really, really happy about that. But perhaps they didn't consider the effect of bringing a Tier 10 premium in for a standard Tier 10 premium cost alongside a Tier 9 premium only available in an Admiral bundle, which works out to the exact same price. Perhaps. I don't know if that's exactly what happened. That's my guess, though. And it's just unfortunate timing when it comes to that. What's not unfortunate timing is the general trend of these ships being released. I think these two are honestly a bit of a breath of fresh air. Maybe Monmouth is a bit of a Gibraltar clone, you know, I think we can say that. But Gonzaga in particular, this ship is really fun to play. It has clear weaknesses. It has a gigantic citadel. It is essentially a destroyer with a light cruiser citadel, and one of the most vulnerable light cruiser citadels at that. But it has the fuel smoke, it has the insane speed boost, it's got amazing concealment, it's got SAP and HE, it's a fun ship to play. Not to mention these torpedoes being really useful for YOLOing, but also they're 10-kilometer torps that do 20,000 alpha damage. At Tier 9, this is a very fun, interesting ship to play. It's not overpowered, no, but I think it's interesting, and I'm really sad that it hasn't been able to be purchased easily for a regular price. I think it's a little too much. I said that in the description on the initial video this week on Gonzaga, that at its current cost for an Admiral bundle, it's just a non-starter. I don't think it's worth paying that much. 185 Canadian is insane, to be honest with you, for one pixel boat. Consider that at Black Friday, ships like Jean Bart, Georgia... Actually, no, Georgia doesn't have a Black Friday ship. Excuse me. Alaska, there's a bunch of Tier 9 Black Friday ships. They're for 16,000 doubloons, or a little more, 16.5, somewhere in there, which is, what, less than half the cost of the Gonzaga currently in its Admiral bundle. So it's just too much money, which is quite unfortunate. I think it's also interesting that Gonzaga could be a new look at a light cruiser Italian line, something that is less oppressive of a gimmick, I would say, relative to Utrecht, for example. Pretty funny to have something like Utrecht when people have been begging Wargaming for a light cruiser German line, right? We've been wanting that for a while, but they bring over some of the German destroyer and secondary turrets for a Dutch line, and the gimmick is the crazy powerful spam of airstrikes. What was the line before that? Oh, Libertad, right? Libertad was before that. We've been having some very gimmick-heavy lines, and the first couple of ships, or maybe not the first couple, but some ships here, Gonzaga and Monmouth, that have been released that aren't as oppressive on their gimmicks, they're just too expensive. That's really too bad. But again, let me know what you think in the comments down below. I would love to hear your thoughts. As always, I'm not one to talk as clearly about the monetization in the game, or rather, my perspective is a little skewed as a CC because I do get benefits. I get these ships available on my accounts to play for free. I get to do that and make videos for you guys, which is amazing. I'm really, really happy that I get to make these videos and this content for you guys. But I do also want to hear from the community and maybe pass some of that feedback along to Wargaming. I don't know. Perhaps we need a little more outrage. I don't know if that's what's required. Sometimes it feels like the outrage when people, the vast majority of the community in World of Warships raises their pitchforks. That's when we get a response from Wargaming. But some of the more calm, reasonable discussion over some of these issues in the game, they're more easily ignored, perhaps. Maybe that's too pessimistic of a take, but that is how I feel about it sometimes. But it really helps to know that I'm in tune, or I've got the right take of the general World of Warships community. I want to know what you guys have to say. So again, comment down below. Am I on the right track here? It certainly would help me know I'm giving the correct feedback to Wargaming, because it's not just my opinion, right? It's about what the general wider audience would like to see, and I think that's really, really important. So again, I'm gonna keep asking you guys to leave that comment, because I will be reading through it, and hey, maybe Wargaming will read through it too. And actually, before I forget, we got a new line released this update. I totally forgot. I haven't seen them around at all. It's the Russian submarines, and maybe that's contributing to it too. We got a line that not terribly many people, at least I think, I'm not interested at all in the new submarines or any submarines, but I don't think many people are either. I suppose that also came with a new tier 10 premium as well. A lot of high tier premiums these days. Not a lot of those mid-tier ones. Maybe that's part of it. I don't know. I'm again just rambling about the current state of the monetization. But Seal, Admiral Pack, or Gambling is the two options. I gotta be very clear though. I'm very glad it's not just Gambling. That is the bar to clear. It's a very low bar, but they have cleared it here with this update. Seal, Admiral Pack, $257 Canadian. And Monmouth is for a regular pack, fortunately. That's what I would prefer. That's the want. That's my want, is that there's a regular pack. That's 184 Canadian. And then Gonzaga's Admiral Pack, also 184. So if you look at the premium shop, it's pretty expensive. That's the featured tab, too. And not to get too real, you know, video games are a great escape from real life, but let's be honest, things are not as cheap as they once were a few years ago. My grocery bill certainly has gone up, so yeah, this is expensive, man, for some of these ships, I gotta say. But to be fair to Wargaming, this has been, at least for Monmouth specifically, not the Admiral packs that have inflated the cost. For Gonzaga, it's inflated, but Monmouth, that is the normal-ish tier 10 regular cost. I've never really recommended people buy those anyway, specifically because they are just so expensive. I don't think they're great value either. If you're looking for a ship to grind credits, something to consider is that tier 10 premiums are classified as special ships. And what that means is you don't have the internal credit multiplier, and that's what really sets the normal premium ships apart. And those are the ones with the gold icon and the gold wreath around them, and the special ships are the gold wreath silver icon, I believe. I'll show you the picture on screen, but that's how you can tell. And the full gold ones are the ones you want for grinding out credits, and that's usually tier 9 and below, which is why tier 9s are often such a good tier to be grinding out credits for. Gonzaga could have been really interesting for someone who enjoys light cruiser play and wants to try an Italian light cruiser. Sometimes Wargaming does this, where they implement a premium as a concept for a new line that'll happen in the future. You get an early look at it. I think sometimes that's really interesting as a premium, and they'll often change it. You know, often, like Tirpitz was a good example of that way back in the day. Came out a long time before the full German battleship mainline came through, but then they tweaked it a little bit, didn't have torps, longer range secondaries, and then Tirpitz got buffed up to have those secondaries too. But it's interesting. It's Monmouth, Gonzaga in particular, very interesting ships. I like them both a lot. They're not overpowered. I think they're pretty well balanced. They're hard to play in a lot of ways, but they have many strengths that are very, very enjoyable. And importantly, I don't think they're that oppressive to play against, I guess. This is something I've been talking about a lot when it comes to these newer ship designs, is that sure, they might be fun to play with all their gimmicks for a short time. I think the gimmicks kind of wear off in their enjoyment or usefulness, but how are they to play against? What's it like to face one of these ships? And that is sometimes missing. But for Monmouth, Gonzaga, I think they're good design. It's just too bad they're so expensive. And again, I'm gonna ask you, comment down below. Am I off base here, or am I pretty close to how you're feeling about the current state of the monetization and new ships coming into the game? Because I would really like to know if I'm on the right direction. That gives me some confidence to give more feedback, or give the correct feedback to Wargaming, and perhaps they do end up listening to it. Here's the build that I've been running on my Gonzaga. I haven't really changed it, I don't think. We're really focused on those consumables. It's a pretty standard build. Maybe there's some weirdness we could do with outnumbered, or because that extra speed could be really fun to play around with. I don't know. But running a lighthouse feels pretty awkward on a ship with such low range at tier 9. The thing to consider is those up tiers into super ships tier are dreadful. So very difficult ship to play into those up tiers. This icebreaker, pretty funny. Difficult to go for that yellow play, but I managed it a couple times in that original video if you missed it. It's hard though. These torpedoes doing 20k is quite funny though. And equipment-wise, pretty standard. Although, yeah, I was testing smoke generator mod. That's why my smoke lasts a little bit longer here. Pretty funny. You miss out on some main gun accuracy, but maybe that's less of a problem on cruisers. And Monmouth, I was trying a full, I don't know about full, but pretty close to full lighthouse build there in that game. And it was hard. Getting spotted so early, 14 kilometer detect, feels pretty awkward with these turret angles and this vulnerable citadel. But, you know, damage was pretty good. Hard to proc outnumbered all the time with such long range, but it is possible. Decent amount of hit points. Again, the super heals here are quite nice. And that rudder shift with the engine maneuverability, right, like the acceleration that British cruisers get, is pretty nice. If I forgot to show it, I think I should remember. I'm about to edit this, so I should remember. But there you go. That's special ship is what they call it there. And a full premium is the full gold one. Yeah, gold wreath, silver or white interior, and you can see that designation here actually as well. Special ships, premium ships. I just want to go over that for anybody who doesn't know. There's no extra credit income bonus here. You see in the features tab where Gonzaga has another little icon, more credits. That's what that means essentially. Two very interesting ships, and for too much, honestly. Especially Gonzaga, really disappointed there's not just a normal tier 9 price for it, which is still a lot, by the way. I think that still would be like $100 Canadian or more. It's a lot, man. Considering the cost of a full price PC game, and that's without even waiting for Steam sales. They're not cheap. They are not cheap at all. So again, let me know what you think in the comments down below. Really want to hear your opinion on this as we go forward in 2025. Want to make sure I give the right feedback to Wargaming. I think they listened on Monmouth in particular. They did not have that wishing wharf. They canceled the wishing wharf for this event, or for this update, and it shows they can listen. If we give the right feedback and it makes sense to them, and we can clearly show why something is bad, and a better direction forward can be provided, I think that's really good. Wargaming can do it, and I just want to make sure I'm giving the right feedback to them from you guys, and we can find that path going forward here. So thank you very much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.